Man, this internet lag thing is just like... Oh, man. There we are. What's up, guys, and welcome back. We're here with another Fly Talk episode. Basically, this is just kind of the final walkthrough of the mix sesh. I probably will go into the mastering session as well, and just kind of explain what I did there as well, too. Alright, but let's get into it with any further delay. Alright, so here's what it looks like, and I'm going to play you where the mix started and what I got the tracks as. So here is that right now. Now let's unpack that a little bit. So I didn't like the bass. I thought the kick was weak. I thought the snare sounded like a toy. There was just a lot of things that I wanted to beef up, I guess you could say. So what I did, and you can see it through the previous episodes, is I beefed up the beat. Now this is what the beat sounds like now. Let me mute all of the vocal tracks. Alright. And then a vocal delay, maybe. Vocal reverb. And delay. Turn these off, too. And another delay right here. Awesome. Okay. So, let's play this original beat. Now here's the beat that I made. See if I can like volume match just a little bit better. What is happening? Why does it sound mono in these ears? Let me just put it in A. There. Yeah. Alright. So as you can see, sound a whole lot different. Now this is the original mix of, well, I guess it's not really a mix, it's just kind of all of those sounds put together with all of the vocals, and that's what this sounds like. And this is kind of what I had to go off of.
I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, when said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gab, this is Fly Talk 101.
Now that sounds a little messy, and so we got all the vocals reprocessed, and I didn't like the delays so much on the vocals there. So here's where we're at now.
Check, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gab, this is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off.
Now let's go back to the original again.
So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gab, this is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting.
Oof. I knew it sounded dry. All of these reverbs and delays. Let's turn them back on.
So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gab, this is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gab, this is Fly Talk 101. Fly Talk 101. Fly Talk 101. Yeah. Fly Talk.
I just want to stop it and mention something that right here in this spot right here, these are the ad-libs. This is what's cool about this, is because when you're a mix engineer, you get to decide what's important in the track. You know, it's your job to decide what's going to make the most emotional connection with the listener. And so when I chose the ad-libs to be the thing that connects the listener to the song, it really brought out the best in the song. Now listen, without these ad-libs so loud, I'm going to turn them down. Let's just grab all of these and then turn them down. Let's just see what happens.
Always getting checked.
So we're just going to turn them down in the mix and see what happens.
Always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the...
As you can see, it just kind of gets a little lost in the mix and they're almost inaudible, and that's really the juice of the song. Those ad-libs are what makes it. Now listen.
Always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them.
See, those ad-libs really create the energy that this song is needing at the moment. You know what I mean? It really keeps it driving, you know?
Always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble and said that...
And now we're going to go to the verses, because this is where it gets really cool. I did some cool effects. Let's check it out. So right after we go through... So for the second part of the hook, I chose to keep the ad-libs the exact same.
I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble and said that I...
And that was because the ad-libs were the driving force of the song. They really kept the energy where it needed to be, so I let them do that. Now, in the third and final hook, you'll see that I let the extra ad-lib bleed over a little bit, so we got another extra voice in here. With my hooks, I kind of like them to tell a story and get more progressively bigger and more epic over time. That's not always... You don't always have the ability to do that with hip-hop, but in this track, I think I did an amazing job. Check it out. Alright, so let's go into the first verse, second part of the track. So right after here.
Flat top 101. I know you don't like the way I flip my check, sliding through in all white. Watch your girl break your neck, riding through South Dallas. Coming from the west, just left my palace. About to hop in a private jet, cause I gotta visit family and ain't gonna get no rest. In the 216 and 317, gotta wear a vest. Young shooter busting at you while they jumping out the net. But I'm cool where my niggas at, throwing up the set. And I ain't been around in the while, but I ain't miss a beat. Everybody know when I was round, was married to the streets. Ain't shit change, I'm still the same, playing it for geeks. Only thing now, check me out 7 days a week. On the radio with Bluff and have your niggas on your feet. Got you mafia in the building and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks while my niggas snatching up the freaks. I need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to freak. I'm always getting checks, so that...
Okay. Let's unpack this a little bit. So if you notice, right here in the verse, I drop everything out except for the harp. And
216 and 317, gotta wear
right here.
Young shooter busting at you while they jumping out the net.
Now bring the flute back in.
Where my niggas at, throwing up the set, and I ain't been around in the while, but
And now it's just, and then it's just the bass. Check it out.
I ain't miss a beat. Everybody know when I was round, was married to the streets. Ain't shit change, I'm still the same, playing it for geeks.
And then I bring everything back in to kind of lead into the next measure. So
Only thing now, check me out 7 days a week. On the radio with Bluff and have your niggas on your feet. Got you mafia in the building and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks while my niggas snatching up the freaks. I need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to freak. I'm always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred.
and this piano is kind of the driving force of the music in the hook. And that dark, ominous vibe, I really liked it, and so I wanted to really bring it out. Since that was the driving force of the music in the hook, why can't it be the driving force of the music in the verse. But let's not make it a piano. Let's do something different with it. I wanted to get a little in touch with my rock roots, so to speak. All right, so let's play the second verse, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Oops.
Flat Talk 101. Flat Talk 101. Flat Talk 101. Flat Talk 101. You can hate and debate the way I move around and get it. You too late, cause the crate stacked up to the ceiling face that I make. At your nigga, yeah, yo, always silly. She like the way my pockets ball, since she wanna feel it. Now I got her on the helipad. I'm about to get it, seen the Royce on the net. I want it, I'ma spin it, independent, no record deal. They wonder how I did it, hustle hard, never giving.
Here it is.
So addicted, better check my resume and feet. The description, I'm verified in the streets and I don't need no picture. Came up off a double up and now I'm sitting rich. Remember where I came from? Gorilla out the trenches, I check the streets of fire. So don't forget to mention I'm a living legend in the book. In my
I don't know if you're following me yet, but that was hard. Listen again. Oh my gosh. Going from the guitar to the piano, genius. Absolutely genius.
The description, I'm verified in the streets and I don't need no picture. Came up off a double up and now I'm sitting rich. Remember where I came from? Gorilla out the trenches, I set the streets of fire. So don't forget.
And I don't know if you heard it, but there's a little something extra in there. Let's unpack it. All right, so in the vocals here, along with this guitar, following the piano, I have usually a vocal synth going. And right here, we can see this. So now, if we solo the vocals plus the guitar,
Where I came from, gorilla out the trenches, I set the streets of fire.
that was super cool. I love adding vocal synths or vocoders in just little spots to make little things just pop out at you. And this really creates the transition into the next section, which is just the second half of the second verse.
Where I came from, gorilla out the trenches, I set the streets of fire. So don't forget to mention I'm a living legend in the book, and my name is written. It's the hardest shit they ever wrote. Read it in the sentence. This ain't Fly Talk 101. Bet you niggas listen. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab. This is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab. This is Fly Talk 101.
And there you have it. That's the mix. Now, I'm going to open up the mastering session, and we'll have some fun with that, and I'll show you what I did to make that sound the way I did as well. Let's open this up. Alright, so now I'm wearing a different hat. I'm going to be wearing a mastering hat. So, like, I have to think like a mastering engineer would. And someone always asks me to review a song, I like to try and master the track first and see what I'm trying to do, or see if I'm trying to fix any errors or correct any things. Like, for instance, let's say the snare is just weak and I'm just trying to find it with an EQ and just boost that frequency, but it's boosting other frequencies around it, and I'm not really getting the results that I need. And so this is a problem that you might end up having to try to fix when you're mastering tracks. And so then I like to talk to the artist and give them feedback. Be like, I thought the snare was a bit weak because I couldn't master it properly. So these are things that I've just, little bits of knowledge that I've acquired over the years. Mastering is kind of how I fix any mix. I try to master it and see if I can, and if I decide I'm doing too much in the mastering stage, then I go back to the mix and I make sure that the mix is appropriate. And sometimes this happens because I haven't been given reference tracks, or what I'm doing is just a little bit outside of my comfort zone, so to speak. But, you know, every genre of music can be mixed appropriately if you know what you're doing, all right? So let's get to the mastering session here. Alright, so like I said, I brought in the original, and it sounds like this. Oof, really loud.
I got the gift of gab. This is Flat Talk 101. Flat Talk 101.
Okay, so here we start out the mix with this. And I usually like to just cut the tops off of the transients just to kind of even out the waveform a bit. You don't really have to do that, and I probably didn't have to do that on this track, but I did, and it's really only cutting the tops off of the very, very butt end of the production, where I gave it kind of everything. It's just got everything here. Let's just listen to it.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that mix. It sounds phenomenal, but it's just a bit... needs to sound fuller, alright? Now, I'm not saying I can't do a bunch of mix bus processing in the mixing stage, because I could. But I feel, because I'm a mastering engineer, that that's the mastering engineer's job. You know, just mastering songs, I kind of don't like it when people use too much compression. I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22. If you want your song to sound a certain way, make it sound that certain way, and explain what you did to the mastering engineer, so he knows what not to do. But if he's good, he should know what he's doing anyways. Anyway, so we're with a good mix. We got a good mix. I clipped the peaks off, and I brought it down to another track, like so. Alright? And then what I did was I took warp off and brought it to Complex Pro just because I'm like superstitious and I feel like it's going to affect it even though it's off. And I hit minus 3.5 on the clip gain. I'm going to undo all of that. So I'm just stuck with this. As you can see, minus 3.5 right there. Alright, now I'm running that into a Shadow Hills mastering compressor. And it's not doing a lot of work. Let's look at it in the densest section.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough.
So we're not even listening to the right track. Let's put this on the out.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG.
So this is with the plug-in off.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a damn. This is Flat Talk 101.
Now I feel that it might have gotten a touch louder, but the vocals became a bit more present in the Stereo 2 track that we have here. So I like the compression settings that we have here. I might have even switched it to this if I was feeling a bit more adventurous, but this is fine where I had it. Let's just see what it sounds like if I switch it to iron.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a damn. This is Flat.
Alright, I think it sounds a bit cleaner on nickel, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what the manual says too. Let's look at it. I almost never look at the manual. Extremely tight boost in the low frequency steel. Where is nickel? The cleanest position has subtle accentuation of the high frequencies. Wow. So I was right. Said it sounds a bit cleaner.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a damn.
I just like the way the bass hits on nickel. It comes through a bit better and feels cleaner. Now we can put this compressor away and focus just on here. Now I actually don't have a lot going on. I got tonal balance control to see if I was in the ballpark.
Always getting checks,
But there's no audio going to it. So let's fix that again. Alright, so let's turn ozone off and see what we got here. So
always getting checks, so that mean I'm gonna keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stun enough. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a damn.
okay. Let me break down what tonal balance control is doing here. Alright, so it's an analyzing plugin. It's to show where curves are typically for different target genres. So this is just to show you what's typical. It's not saying that you can't go outside of the realm of what's typical. It's just saying, here's a guideline. Try to follow it if that helps you. And it does help in the beginning when I'm trying to get the balance of everything right. But when I'm listening for something, after a while, I just kind of ignore this once I've got the balance of the track right. So let's go back in. Let's turn Ozone on, and I'm going to shut off individual modules here right away. So when I get in Ozone, first of all, immediately I click Master Assistant, all right? And I let the AI find all of the resonant frequencies and pull them down, all right? Now, I always audition every frequency that this dynamic EQ decides it wants to pull down, because not all of them are going to affect the mix in the way that it thinks it's going to affect it. See, what Ozone is doing is it's detecting problem areas that could interfere with the transparency of the final limiter, Ozone's maximizer, and will give you a much cleaner sound going through the limiter if you're using heavy reduction, or heavy limiting, I should say. So that's kind of what I do. I kind of audition each of these frequencies to see if they're taking away anything that I don't want them to take away. And if they are, I just, hit the X button or turn them off. But these were fine. I didn't really touch these too much, so I'm going to turn that off. But first thing I do is I set up my maximizer. So I make sure it's at -1, set the true peak, and then I set it to transient. The reason I set it to transient is because I want the maximizer to be reacting to keeping the preservation of the transients better than all these other different modes that it has. Now, I've tested out modern, I've tested out classic, and I've tested out all of these. The ones that I find are the best are transient and modern. I'm not a big fan of classic, and I'm not a big fan of all of these ones. And it really does say in the manual what these are for, and I just wouldn't use them in any of my mixes. I didn't like it. And I usually have a slow attack to preserve more of the transients and stereo independence. That just means the transients that are hitting, how much of them do you want independently compressed by the limiter. And so I want them to be a little bit independent. So like the transients that hit, if one's higher on the right side and goes louder in amplitude, I want it to be compressed relatively similarly on the left side, because obviously the left side, I'm not hard panning any transients, because that'd be weird. I mean, unless I do some creative hi-hat things, but I didn't in this track. So anyway, so I set up the limiter, I got the dynamic EQ set up, and then let's just see what that sounds like.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gas, this is Flacco 101.
Okay, now when I was bypassing with the gain match on, and I was bypassing and unbypassing, I don't know if you heard the difference, but every time I would activate Ozone, because the limiter was active, what happens when the limiter is active and you're running sound through it and it's hitting the threshold, it's hitting the ceiling, and it's compressing the audio down, what's happening is the top end distorts first, and it gives us kind of this wispy high-end presence that I really enjoy. And you can hear it just plain as day right here. I'm even taking away frequencies right here. I have both of these on, and it still sounds higher in frequency content. Here, listen again. So here's without.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them.
See how you just get a little bit more presence from that high end? Now in mastering, it's all about little moves. So now we're going to move on to the EQ, all right? This EQ isn't doing a whole lot, except for on the sides. I'm cutting a whole bunch of low on the side, because I really really want to keep the low end mono without actually collapsing it to mono. I hate plugins that do that. It's making your sound worse. You can, however, just boost the bass in the mid channel, and then cut the bass on the side channel, and you'll have a much cleaner result, at least in my experience. But if you have a bass that is, you know, moving, like has a lot of movement to it, a lot of stereo spread, you might not want to cut the bass on the sides at all. All right, it just depends on the musical content. All right, now in this case, I wanted the 808 to sit right in the center, and I wanted the kick to sit right in the center, and that's what I'm doing here. And I have a 6 decibel roll off because it creates the least amount of phase shift possible that I can control anyways. And then my second equalizer is to spread the stereo image a little bit. I have I have it doing something different on the right and the left side. And let's listen to these EQs. Let's turn this one off and this one off.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to get the gab, this is like a 101. Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that
Alright, so I'm really liking that EQ, what it's doing there. But let's go to another part of the song. Right here.
yeah, 7 days a week on the ready.
The reason I'm doing that is the song is still very dense in this part, but we have more room to work with, so.
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with Glover. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks, while my niggas snatching up the freaks that need a pallet check.
Okay, so I want to point out the fact that when I activate this EQ and bypass it, when it's active, you'll hear there's a bit high-end presence. The vocal intelligibility comes out of the mix, and the sides are what's important. You can hear the backup vocals on the sides really, really singing with the lead vocal, and it makes this really nice marriage between the two. Here, listen.
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with Glover. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks, while my niggas snatching up the freaks that need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to reach.
As you can see, it brings a lot of top-end presence there and vocal intelligibility. Now we're gonna look at the stereo spreading EQ, which is really just giving something different to the right side and something different to the left side to really widen the stereo image without it being too different when you collapse it to mono. It's going to have extremely good mono compatibility, and we're going to test that here in a second. Alright, so now let's activate this EQ.
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with Glover. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks, while my niggas snatching up the freaks that need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to reach.
If you notice, it sits right here, and then the lead vocal just gets a little bit wider, and the rest of the mix gets wider too. It just feels like something opens up with that EQ turned on. It's really cool. Listen again.
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with Glover. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP.
See, mastering is all about little moves. Now let's move on to the stereo imager, which I don't do a lot in, just a little bit. So here this guy is. I have nothing happening in the bass region. I make sure that is not doing anything. And in fact, we could just shut this off. It doesn't even need to be on because it's literally not doing anything. And so this one I only pushed a little bit, and this one I pushed quite a lot, but it's above 5 point something K. 5 point what K? Let's look at it. 5.0? I'm not really sure. It looks like it's like around 5K. Alright. Anyway. So without this,
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with Glover. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks, while my niggas snatching up the freaks that need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to reach.
alright, so as you can see, it just brings out everything just like this. All right, just a bit more, makes it sound like it's more present, more in your face, and that's what you're looking for. All right, now we're going to do some cool things here, all right? So we're going to see what it sounds like completely bypassed in ozone.
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with blubbing. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks while my niggas snatching up the freaks. I need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to reach.
As you can see, I get a lot more presence in the vocals and everything that matters in the tracks. As you can see, this mastering job is done. But let's see the mono compatibility of it. All right, now there's there's a couple ways I like to check it. All right, I like to check it through my loopback system, which you're not going to be able to hear. All right, it's just in my headphones. And then actually, no, I don't think I am able to do that. No, I don't think I am. Anyway, what I can do here is I can monoize it here with this, which is a little different than monoizing it with the utility plugin in Ableton. So we are going to try both of them and see how it sounds. Let's try this one first. All right.
Yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with blubbing. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks while my niggas snatching up the freaks. I need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to reach. I'm always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and say that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab, this is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and say that I don't stunning up. So
all right. Now, I'm really liking the mono compatibility there. Now, whenever you have a really big stereo image, you're going to lose some stuff on the sides. But you just got to make sure that whatever you lose can be lost in the mix. It shouldn't be the most important part. So a lot of the elements I try to keep in the center, especially with hip-hop tracks where there's like 4 or 5 elements and that's it. I like to keep them towards the center and then create an atmosphere with reverbs and delays on the sides so that we can just drop those and maybe have a mono reverb on it as well and make it not too drowned out, you know, just make it nice and light. And that's what I like to do to create good mono compatibility with all of my tracks. I try to make sure that whatever I'm losing on the sides, I can lose. With rock songs, it's a little bit different because you have your guitars hard panned left and right, and this isn't a rock song, so let's keep going. All right. So now we have the utility plugin, Monization. Let's check it out.
yeah, 7 days a week on the radio with blubbing. Had your niggas on your feet, got you mafia in the building, and we in the VIP. I'm collecting checks while my niggas snatching up the freaks. I need a pallet check to move the money that I'm about to reach. I'm always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and say that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag, pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab, this is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and say that I don't stunning up. So I dug.
Alright, now there's one last thing I want to do, and that's listen to the original, I guess, mix down or engineering of the original track. We're going to listen to it, and I'm going to switch back and forth between my version and the original version, and we'll see how different they sound from beginning to the final product. Alright, let's go. Alright, so we'll just start out right here in this one.
Always getting checks.
Let's just start out here.
Always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and say that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab, this is Fly Talk 101. I'm always getting checks, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and say that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab, this is Fly Talk 101. Fly Talk 101. I know you don't like the way I flip my chest, sliding through an all white. Watch a girl break a neck, riding through South Delhi. Coming from the west, just left my palace, about to hop in a private jet. Cause I gotta visit family and ain't gon' gon' get no rest. In the 216 and 317, gotta wear that. Young shooter bustin' at you while they jumping out the net. But I'm cool, I'm where my niggas at. Throwing up the second, I ain't been around in the while, but I ain't miss a beat. Everybody know when I was round, was married to the streets. Ain't shit changed, I'm still the same, playing it for geeks. Only thing now, check me out 7 days a week. On the radio with club and have your niggas on your feet. Got you mafia in the building.
I just think my favorite part is the guitar. I really love this part. Let's listen to it again.
Spinning no record, did they wonder how I did it? Hustle hard, never giving up. My dreams are so addicted. Better check my resume and feet. The description, I'm verified in the streets and I don't need no picture. Came up, I'm a double up and now I'm sitting rich. Remember where I came from? Gorilla out the trenches, I set the streets afire. So don't forget to mention I'm a living legend in the book, and my name is written. It's the hardest shit they ever wrote. Read it in the sentence. This ain't fly talk 1-on-1. Bet you niggas listen. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag.
Can I just pause and say how awesome that guitar sounds in the last hook, or second to last hook? Let's check that out again. Let's play from right here.
In the sentence, this ain't fly talk 1-on-1. Bet you niggas listen. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab. This is fly talk 1. I'm always getting checked, so that mean I'm gon' keep running up. My OG say I'm humble, and said that I don't stunning up. So I dug off in the bag and pulled a couple hundred on them. I got to give a gab. This is fly talk 101.
Well, I think that was a good walkthrough. This has been fun. I hope to do more tracks like this. We started Anyway, and I'm sure I'll do a walkthrough of one of these new ones I'm working on called Thirst Trap Thursday. It'll be probably coming out soon. I'm not exactly sure when. I'll have the details when the artist gives me those details. But it's a collaborative song, so I'm not sure when it's actually going to come out. Now, to be honest with you, I really want to do more of these walkthroughs where I show like the whole production from start to finish. Unfortunately, that's not always going to be the case because I do have deadlines, so there'll be little bits and pieces that you miss along the way, but I will explain them in the next session. All right, it's been fun, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Mr. Audio, out.